everybody.
Where are we today, Mary?
I have no idea.
Oh, you do too.
We are up on the ridge above. Where are we above?
Whistle Pass again.
Whistle Pass again. Only today you have the triad of myself, Mary C. Anderson, and
Nancy Bergman.
and
Jim Lisinski.
and we are going to take a drive and we're going to unravel a few more mysteries down here coming off the ridge.
And we're down here again in the Twin Cities of Trempealeau County, Dodge and Pine Creek.
A little bit more work for the History Channel.
You bet. We're going to get it all. We're going to be documenting.
That's right. And we hope you enjoy the show. And load on up.
All right. We can get pictures of the stop sign. And that's a weird place for a
There's a
stop
Whistle
sign.
Pass sign right here.
Well, why is there a stop sign? Do they think someone's going to be going down this hill?
That's for the trucks.
I think it's for these trucks, 45 mile an hour coming out of here around this corner.
Yeah.
I have no idea. It's probably for the truck.
It just seems like it's a weird place.
I told you the roads have been changed in Whistle Pass. So that could be right there. That's a sign right there. They've been changed. They're not where they used to be.
Okay, we are
Problems again.
Technical difficulties.
We are all good.
Technical difficulties. Mary and I never have technical difficulties, do we?
I've learned that if you press enough buttons, sooner or later, you can get the cameras to do what you want.
If I had my hammer, we would have had it fixed a long time ago. No way.
And now we are headed down the ridge from the top of Whistler's Pass, correct?
You bet.
But now Jim says, the road has been changed.
The original Whistler's Pass for Martin was about a mile to our north. We're in section 19 now, and on the old maps it shows that the crossing was in section 20, which would be about a mile. Not quite. What's a mile? Quarter mile.
Quarter of a mile.
Quarter mile to our north here. And so Martin Whistler in '55 built a cabin just over on the Tamarack side. He did not build on Whistle Pass side. He built on the Tamarack side of the hill and had his cabin there. And they claim the chimney was there for many years, but I haven't talked to anybody that lives over there, or one or two of the old people that are left. They may remember if there was a chimney.
Now you said it was back up here?
One more farm down and then back up.
Oh, okay.
This was Andrew Lisinski's farm many years ago. Andrew Jr., I guess it would have been.
Was that your grandfather or great-grandfather?
Been an uncle to my dad.
Okay.
Brother to my grandfather. Yeah.
All right. And then whose farm was this?
This was a Gobrick farm at the time. Right now, the young Glenzinskis owned this. John and Ellis's boys are here. Young John is here. And this was Andrew Lisinski married Mrs. Gobrick here when her husband got killed. He got kicked by a horse and screwed him up internally and heart problems, whatever. He died, then Andrew married and moved to this side. Grandma and Grandpa used to live back in there, great-grandma and Andrew.
So did we go left here on Gillespie?
No, go straight.
Oh, okay.
We're going to go down and look where the original church was.
The original church, well,
yes.
What, 1855?
50 something.
Okay.
When James Pratt sold that farm, or sold the land in 1858, he owned it. Martin settled in 1855, and Ron Gillespie says by 1860 to 1870 that church was in operation. So it had to be underneath Pratt's ownership at the time when the church was built in that valley. Now the old road and the old maps shows that here at Tom Lambert's farm, the road had to go up the valley and then cross back in here for Whistler Pass.
Okay.
So Whistler Pass has to be back here on our right side, back in one of these draws on
so
the
you're
old
saying
maps.
that where we were is not really
That's
Whistler Pass?
That's not the original road.
Oh, and we just zoomed past where I could see.
Well, we go up by Tom's yard, you could probably see again, Mary.
I'm sorry.
Driving 14.
I've got my lead foot down again, you know.
She's
There.
just-
See, look at
Right
that.
here. Perfect.
One of these draws back here jumped over the hill, and I suspect there's enough humps and bumps there.
Do you think it's this one that I've got kind of
Your
Okay,
guess is
Nancy,
good as mine.
You just kind of stop right here.
Pick a number.
You can see right here. You
There's a
look
little-
close enough. There's a dip.
Yep,
But then if you go further to the north,
there's another dip.
there's another dip.
So, and then, like I said, and then the new road now is to the right where the quarry mouth is. So, someplace up in here on the old map that showed it went straight across the hill.
Straight
So
across the hill.
That's had to be where Martin and the others were coming.
So we were a quarter mile off, Nancy.
Well, we were close enough.
Well, we did a whole show on the pass.
The sign is there. It says
Yeah.
Whistler
Yeah,
Pass. You can't
that's
believe everything you read.
There you go. You
Well,
can't
what do they
believe.
say that close only counts in tiddlywinks and hand grenades? right?
Oh,
Horseshoes,
and
horseshoes.
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 There you go. There's always more chances for
Tiddlywinks,
close.
too. Okay. Now, we have to stop here for anything? No. Whose farm was this, Jim?
This was a Gobrick farm also.
Oh, okay.
This was Walter Gobrick's farm.
Well, that
Who
sounds
owned
like
it before? I'm not positive. I didn't look that up.
That sounds
Tom-
like a German name.
I don't know. It's young Tom Lambert lives here now with his wife, and this whole farm belongs to him.
Display out there.
Yeah, we got some solar and a windmill.
Yep. Covering all bases.
There you go. Now, this valley has obviously, Jim, a very long, rich history of which you seem to know a lot of. Is that because it's all relative?
No, it just you happen to read the right book at the right time.
Okay.
This house wasn't here, but I know a guy that looks almost like me, a little bit younger than I am. He helped build that thing.
A younger guy.
Yeah.
That looks like you.
And now,
My son worked for a crew that built that home
Okay.
for Rotary over here one time.
Okay.
and now, as we're approaching, whose farm is in front of us?
This is the Winter farm. I says, Joe is still here with his daughter, his wife. Unfortunately, has passed on. I said, but they used to always come here. They always said if you lived on a ridge, you had to get seed oats from the valley. And if you lived in the valley, you got seed oats from the ridge. It grew better.
Why?
Principle, I guess. Maybe different soil. Maybe it just worked out that way, and you got to visit your neighbors.
Well,
But I says, Joe over here, for many years, Dad used to come here too, and they would get seed oats. And everybody said they had oats that ran well. They said, what brand you got? Oh, it's Winter's oats.
And Winters being the family that grew the oats.
Winter, yeah.
no T, right? It's winter.
W-E-N-E-R, Winter.
And what's this thing out here in the field?
The windmill.
A windmill.
A base?
But the mill is gone. The old road used to go through here, if I'm not mistaken, off of this farm for Whistler Pass. The road in Whistler Pass has been changed, and the roads in the pass itself have been changed. Because there was a road up off of Tommy Kramer's that went up to the Loshek farm, and this road ran up Whistler Pass, or up Schmekel Valley. Now, Schmekel Valley wasn't always called Schmekel Valley.
No, that's a mystery place.
And we don't know why. When Martin Lorschek settled here, he was the first farmer, they said, west of Dodge, according to Ron Gillespie. And they named it, Lorschek Valley. But for some reason, unbeknownst to us, we don't know, maybe if we'd asked Joe, he would have known. Somewhere, someplace along the line, we don't know why, but it got changed to Schmekel Valley. I would assume that was after Martin died, or Mathis died, but we're not sure.
And we can't find any.
Information that says one way, and Schmekel's, yeah, how was it probably spelled,
Yeah.
Whether it's K-E-L, L-E-K, the name could be changed as C for S and A's and I's and whatever else. So we're not even positive how the original spelling should have been.
Now, was there a school and a church there?
Yes.
Okay.
Right here on the next farm here, we're going to sneak in this driveway here.
Right here?
No, on the next driveway on the right, where there's pine trees here.
Oh, on the right. Okay.
This is where the original church was built. And there are still pictures. We have an aerial photo. I think Nancy
Yeah.
can add that
Yep,
into
I've got
the thing
that.
here from Ron Gillespie's book. That the original church was built here, like I said, when Pratt had this in 1858. The church had to be built in his lifetime by 1860.
So you want me to go in here?
Yeah, go on in here for a little bit. Worst I can do is holler and chase us out.
Okay, so now, knowing that the road is different, whereabouts was the building?
Behind the house up here on our left.
Okay.
And this road probably is almost on top of where the church stood.
This road here.
No, the road that's down
here.
below us.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Down below us. Behind the house there, he says, is the pasture, Randy has said. This was Andrew Chisholm's farm. Andrew Chisholm sold it to Roy and Jean Hesley around 1960. And their son Randy now operates the farm.
This is an old-timey building too, isn't it?
And when Chisholm had it, the church where Ready was converted to a farm building. So Pine Creek Church built 1860, dedicated 1864. So by that time, I suspect this building was already not being used. The church was being put over there. But in this pasture behind the house here, out in this field, with this trees, below this red shed, that's where the original church stood here for Schmekel Valley.
Over this
Back
way.
behind the buildings.
Between that red shed and this house, back in this flat back in here.
All right.
He's got some machinery stashed out there now and whatever. But that's where the church originally stood.
Kind of past where those pigeons are walking.
Yeah, back in this field here.
Okay.
And like I said, there's aerial photos. The aerial photos were taken, what, 38, 39, something
Yeah.
like that. The building was still standing there. It was converted, part of it was a corn crib.
Oh.
So I said, the church, I said, was standing here. The people that lived here were using it. But we do not know if there ever was a cemetery, if there were people buried by the church. At that time, they had traveling ministers. So when someone passed, did they wait for 2-3 weeks with the person? I kind of doubt it.
Yeah.
You know, so 9 to 10, probably the early settlers were buried on the land that they owned. You know.
Yes.
So I know, like my mother had said a lot of times, that there was a lilac bush. That lilac bush was probably an infant buried underneath
Yeah.
there from earlier times. You know.
Yep.
So what was this brick thing there? Was that an outhouse?
I wouldn't know.
The proverbial brick outhouse?
You keep opening up cans of worms here. We don't know all these questions. You're going to drive out a field here pretty quick. But see right here in front of us here on the left, this is the area the church had to be in here. We'll have to turn around.
Yes,
And-
Mary.
Because they
then
come
they
out
can
here
get a
with
shot.
clubs. I said, well, I can run yet, but you people are in bad shape.
Oh, there's the old town of Dodge truck too.
Well, Randy helps the township here every so often. I said they need a little extra work, and he's got time here. He'll go there, especially do a little town work, especially in winter when he's caught up. But I said, Roy here now is passed on, and I says, Jean now is in a retirement home. Now we're going to go down below and we'll look where the log schoolhouse used to be.
So was this first church? Do we know what denomination it was?
We assume it was probably Catholic. We assume, but we could be totally wrong. There's no records for this church. Like I said, we don't know. It didn't even have a name.
So it could be
But-
whoever wanted to use it.
Yes, because I said, and a traveling minister, whoever happened to be coming by,
Yeah.
you know. And like I said, the first people, I said, the settlers that they got here, one of the first things they did as they got organized, they had to have a church.
Yeah.
And followed up by some type of a school, because the schooling was so important for the children.
Yeah.
They
And
wanted.
the children were learning English and bringing it home to Ma and Pa.
Nancy was involved with a book, which is part of our deal here today. I said there's 3 books that we're kind of working with. Many and Memorable, which talks about the old country schoolhouse.
Yeah, that was.
And I said,
Quite the
there
addition.
it states in there that the children came to school in September. They knew German, they knew Polish, Norwegian, but by Christmas they all knew English.
Yeah. Well, little kids pick up languages really fast.
And they pick up words they aren't supposed to really
Well, that
fast
too.
too.
Those
So
are
gotta-
usually the first ones they pick up.
But I said they were really worried about education because they wanted their children to have a little better neighbor. So at the bottom of the road here, there's a bridge, and right across that bridge, I believe, is where the first schoolhouse stood. The first schoolhouse was a log house. The land was bought from John and Elizabeth, Elsie Utter.
Okay, we're going to slow down a little bit. And so we're guesstimating that right up this hill
Is where the church stood, yes.
Where the church stood.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
And it looks from the aerial photo, Nancy, I think
Yeah.
we can clip a photo on. It's got a kind of a grainy picture, but we can see where the church stood.
And then up ahead on our right is
Schmekel Valley.
Schmekel Valley, and then someplace over here.
I think farther straight.
Straight?
Right across the bridge, I believe, is where we're going to find where that log schoolhouse probably was. And I'm not walking in these weeds and mosquito infested whatever to look for the schoolhouse.
No, we can do that in the wintertime.
Because on this side, the terrain is kind of rough, but like I said, the road has been changed a little bit. So, but the creek is pretty close to where it used to be.
Is this Pine Creek?
Yes, this is Pine Creek and Schmekel Valley Creek coming together.
Okay.
And there on LiDAR, it shows that down the road, down the bank here on our right, there is a little rampway. There is a rampway into this woods. So 9 to 10, this rampway is possibly either one, there was a little bit of a field here at one time, which is possible, or this is where the schoolhouse stood.
Okay.
And kids would have potentially even boated to school, would they have not?
Well, I wouldn't know about that, but it said the schoolhouse was a log schoolhouse and it was built close to a spring. It was on the north side of the road. This is the spot it shows on the 1874 map, 1877 map. It shows the church up there, the schoolhouse down here. It shows the church in Pine Creek, and it shows the 2 schoolhouses in Pine Creek, I believe, on that map.
Well, you do know, Jim, that Nancy and I are expert finding bases in the middle of the woods.
Yeah, I've seen you do that. You guys are still looking for that temperance hall up over there, and I already found it. I've been there, done that, seen that.
Up on Square Bluff?
Yeah, been there, done that, seen that, Chris.
Yeah, we found that too. It was like, oh, wait a minute, here's a corner. Here's a corner.
There it
Because
was.
not only did they build a school here and have a church, they also had industry. I said, they had mills built here. I said, you remember there only was manpower, horsepower, or water power.
Grist mills?
We had a grist mill right down here. Was a mill built for grinding feed and would be corn, wheat.
Behind us?
Pine Creek went around the corner here, and there was a guy named Stefan Raymer. Mr. Raymer. He bought 20 acres, and he got permission from Andrew Chisholm. We just were in Andrew Chisholm's yard. He got written permission from Andrew to flood the bottoms. So he built a dam.
Oh.
To our left here, between the Brzezinski farm on the back of this hill here behind our left, and the next one is the Lambert farm. The hills come really close together. He dammed it. Someplace he constricted the water, flooded these bottoms because he had written permission that he could do it, to put up his mill in 1874 and 1875. And he operated that mill, and he was pretty religious about it as far as maintaining it. But then he had a tendency sometimes to overextend his stay in Pine Creek one time. And he was by Lintz's during a storm, and it overtopped the dam, and then the dam in the middle, and then so that was the end of that problem.
And everything went south.
Everything went south.
Literally, everything went south.
Yes, and he never did rebuild it. Now at the same time, that was in 1885, this one washed out. We'll stop here just for a second.
Okay.
They had another mill just over Whistle Pass in section 28, belonged to David Bortle.
Hang on to this.
He had a sawmill, and that one was dammed. That shows on the map too. The Winona paper states in 1860 there was a mill built in Pine Creek. Now whether it was a grist mill or whether it was a sawmill, we don't know. But that one that said got washed out in the flood of 72. So there had to be high waters back then.
Like 1972 or 1872?
1872.
Okay.
So I said they lost one in Pine Creek in 72. They lost this one here in 85, 1800s. So I said there was really a lot of effort trying to get someplace. Otherwise, you had to go to the Pickwick Mill.
And where was the Pickwick Mill?
In Pickwick, yeah, Minnesota. You got to cross the river.
Yeah, you gotta go across the
Grandpa used to go down there. They would take a load of wheat down. They'd grind it for flour and then bring it back.
Wow.
It's a long way.
In those days, there was no fast way to get there either.
Well, yeah, horse and wagon, yeah, was the quickest way, no matter how bad it got. Now, along we're standing here, right in this empty field in front of us, was the Brzezinski Schoolhouse. The Brzezinski Schoolhouse stood on this corner.
Where the soybeans are.
Where the soybeans are. It stood on this corner, built in 1890, and it ran till I believe in 1941. The Brzezinski Schoolhouse. Then we want to go in this yard here behind us too.
We're going to go in the yard?
Yes, we're going in this yard behind us.
Oh.
We're going to harass these people. But anyhow, it stood here for the children here of the Schmekel Valley and the area. And when it got done, it was moved to that farm right over here, the coolest farm, with a stump grubber.
Oh, I saw the picture.
Aha! And I even got a little miniature mock-up. I'll show you that stump grubber kind of worked. But they dug in dead men and hooked the cable to the school.
Wait, what are dead men?
Well, we'll get there.
Oh dear.
And then with the use of the stump grubber, they pulled the schoolhouse and moved it over onto there for a granary.
There's the bell.
Okay, so that's where
Here you go, Nancy.
that's why we're stopping here. There's a couple other things we got to look at real quick.
Okay.
We got 150 things to do and we don't have a lot of time to do it.
All right. There you go. Hi.
Well, as long as we're standing here, we're going to explain this stump grubber. And that's how they moved that schoolhouse, Nancy. Okay. Give me a hand here. I said the Brzezinski Schoolhouse got moved over to the coolest farm. And they had an implement. Nancy's got some pictures.
Is that the coolest one?
That's the coolest farm.
Okay.
Now it belongs to Jeff Fuller. But I said Frank Brzezinski owned that. Frank died in 1901. He went for a little walk in wintertime and he collapsed and they found him the next day. So he was born, I forget, 1824, died 1901. Anywho, basically a stump grubber works like this. This end was attached to something solid, like the one tree that's left on your 40. They always wondered why there was one tree. It wasn't just for the shade for the horses. You had to anchor this thing to something. The stump grubber had a long winch on it, a long cable. That was tied onto what was left of a tree. Horses were put onto a long beam. And the horses would take this beam around, tighten this cable. There was a cross piece put underneath so this thing wouldn't tip left or right as the cable winched tighter. And also on the bottom, there were teeth for a lock. So you could pull it tight, lock it, the horses could rest, you could chop some more roots loose and commence to, and that's how they grubbed most of the stumps around here. And that's how they moved the coolest schoolhouse, the Brzezinski Schoolhouse. They dug in dead men, they put in solid posts, braced them, dug them in, winched till they run out of line, move it over, put a new dead man, dig it down, winch till they run out of line, until they pulled the schoolhouse over onto there and used it for a granary.
So the dead man was the tree?
Yes.
Okay.
Or if you didn't have one, you dug in something solid that would be an anchor and pull out.
Okay.
So that's how they used it. And the logging winch, the ad says just some of the models, but the model I seen said it could move 130,000 pounds, which is over 60 tons. So there was a tremendous amount of pressure on one of these cables. I guess when it went to the breaking point of the cable. You know.
Yeah.
And as the horse came around, they had to step over the cable and they had to step over the anchor line. But they got used to it.
Sure.
And with long enough lever, you know, you can move the world.
Well, and those horses were trained.
Yeah.
Horses were trained and they were smart. People knew what horses were about in those days.
There you go.
Learn to pick up their feet.
And they stepped on your foot, you learned that foot moved next time.
That's why God invented steel toes.
Right now we're over here with Darrell and his father Tom lived down here. Tom was a veteran and he was kind of a history buff. He was a little bit into everything, collected a little bit of miscellaneous stuff. And I said I like talking to Tom, and one time I was visiting with him and he says to me, I asked him, I said, what is this bell you have over here?
Oh, yeah.
And he says, well, this bell, he says, comes from the church auction in Pine Creek. He says, from the school. So I said, well, this is the bell for the Pine Creek School. You know, and it says a 24-inch school bell. It says right on there. It does not have a maker's name. It does not have a date. Pine Creek School was built 1890. And, okay, we leave it like that. Now we have another bell, which we will still get on the film yet today, in Pine Creek. That one was donated by John Herrick. John Herrick lived one farm over, and John passed on, I said, but his daughter donated that bell to the Pine Creek Parish and they put it up, and the rumor was it was from the Pine Creek School. Well,
So how many Pine Creek schools were there?
Pine Creek School had 2 times Pine Creek School. There was a public school, and we had the parochial school. So I says, one of these bells isn't like the other. Let's put it that way.
But there's 3 bells, right? There's
Well,
one here,
yeah,
2 here.
that's where the next wrench comes in. I talked to Daryl, and I said, I want to look at this bell a little bit to look for a date on it. And he says to me, he says, which bell do you want to look at? And I said, the one from that schoolhouse. She said, what schoolhouse? You know, okay, there's another bell up here that Tom has. And Tom went to the Brzezinski School, which stood 100 feet from where we're standing. Tom would have been old enough when that building was closed to purchase that bell. But Tom was not old enough to purchase the one when the Pine Creek Public School closed, but John Herrick was old enough to buy that one. So I suspect, and this is all speculation, but we're going to throw this out there. We suspect that the Pine Creek bell is from the Pine Creek Public School. This big bell here from Catholic School is exactly where Tom bought it from, the Catholic School in Pine Creek. The one that I went to school, we got pictures of it. It stood next to in the parking lot next to the Sisters Convent. And the far one is a high possibility is from the Brzezinski Schoolhouse.
There you go.
But we're going to go and look at that and get a few dates off of it and a few pictures of it. This bell, we're quite sure, came from the Pine Creek Parochial School.
Okay.
Because I said it does not have a date on it.
Okay.
It does not even have a manufacturer date. It says it's a 24-inch school bell. We've took pictures of it. I and Daryl have looked at it. There's no indication to say it's yes. There's no indication to say no. But that's the story we're going with, and that's it.
We'll stick with it.
Let somebody else try to prove us wrong. And this bell over here is interesting also.
This place is just covered with bells.
Well, 2 spots are anyway.
It's a lot smaller.
Yes, it's a lot smaller, but if you look at the picture, we've got pictures of all 3 schoolhouses. Every one tower. So we know there was a bell in all 3 schoolhouses. This one is 1886.
I think,
Was that right, Daryl?
1886, I believe it says.
Yeah. I think you've got some pictures of that a little up closer. So there's high possibility this one came out of the Brzezinski School.
Well, it would have been right across the street.
You bet. And the bad thing is the people we got are no longer here to ask. You know, but I says, that's why it's history files. We're still learning.
But we're making educated guesses.
You betcha.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, we've got 3 schools. We've got 3 bells. I think we're in good shape there. We'll go to Pine Creek now. We'll get a picture of that bell and probably do a little bit of a closing for our program today. What do you think, Hans?
Yeah, that will probably work. But now, before we get back in the car and looking this direction, where was that that mill, the grist mill, down over that?
Right in the next hollow.
Okay.
As soon as you drop off the edge of the ridge, the creek crosses the road. Both cliffs come close together. It has to be there. That's where Reamer's land was. Stephen's land was through that draw. He had 20 acres in there. Then he flooded them bottoms across below Chisholm's place, below Roy's chicken coops. Those were flooded.
Okay. Well,
And there's quite a bit of water. Although that water wasn't always real clean. Because Fruman Smolashevsky, who lived up the road here ways, he said back in the 30s, he says when in the Prohibition days, sometimes that creek was just foaming, he says.
I wonder what that was about.
A lot of aeration, I guess, was the problem, but that's a different story. We're not into that today.
That's a different story, right? We're not going
That's
there.
not part of our history studies here today. Well, we thank you, Daryl, for allowing us to stop by here and take a few pictures here. And we'll send you a notice when we're on.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Unless we go out of business before that. We don't know yet.
Yeah, we don't know.
Daryl had an odd hole open up here in the field there a few years back, right here on the right. The thing was about 6 inches square, 20 feet straight down.
Well, a sinkhole.
It was about 6 inches, 6 feet,
Wow.
about 6 foot square, straight down.
Wow.
Don't know where the dirt went, it was gone.
Well, that doesn't happen.
UFO thing, I think.
Huh.
maybe one of them underground stills.
Yeah, there had to be a tunnel, an exit someplace. You know, there had to be some type of a erosion thing for it to drop. But it didn't look like there was no timber. It didn't look like it was man-made. And like I said, this was John Herrick's place.
Yeah.
Where John and Stella lived, and Stella had all them old things. John was an engineer. He was a draftsman. When he pruned a line fence to cut the trees back, Wisconsin law says straight up, that's the way he cut her, so it looked like a bad haircut if you didn't do your side, because his side was right to the sky, was cut straight. John wanted to put in hydroelectric for the city of Dodge, for the town of Dodge. Where the span bridge is in Buffalo County, just above Dodge, the hill comes close together. John said we should build a dam in there and we could have electricity for free here in Dodge, you know. But people were afraid at the time. They said if we put that in, if the dam would go out, it could be really a bad flood or something, so they kind of went against that. And I think John even was going to do the development of the blueprints for the Pine Creek School that they built in 1960. But I think because of state regulations, I don't know if he was allowed to do the blueprinting, because you'd have to have a license to have the right specs and whatever else,
Yeah,
you know.
you
But
probably have to have an architect.
yeah, but John would have did the prints for that also, because he had the know-how, but don't know if it worked out.
And did he have a brother that was an implement dealer?
Harry in Dodge. Now, I'm not going to say that he's a brother. We'd have to do a little research on that. I never did look at the relation between Harry and John, because their back names are spelled different.
Now we're going back to the church, right, Jim?
Yeah, we got one more bell to film over there, and I think we can close by the grotto, and you can edit the rest out.
You're nervous about that, aren't you? That's good. We'll keep you on your toes.
Yeah. And you don't know that there's never been a mill over here anywhere, as far as you know.
There's nobody old enough to ask either. There had to be mills in Pine Creek, because I said when J.J. Brum was born, 1866, he constructed 2 mills in Pine Creek. He had the Pine Creek mill here. What was Pine Creek Milling something he had, and he had the Trempealeau hardwood thing. He had 2 mills. And let me look my notes. Even I got to look at notes once in a while.
But you thought that maybe they were, he moved them around.
See, the schoolhouse stood in this
In the cornfield, yeah.
Yeah, the public. Okay, yeah, John Brum, born 1866, died 1939. He had the Pine Creek Milling Company and the Trempealeau River Hardwood Lumber Company. Now, in 1901, I seen an article in the Winona paper, and it says John and another guy from Buffalo County, I can't recall his name, they were in Winona. They were buying parts for their mill, their portable mill. So 9 to 10, these mills were both portable in Pine Creek, and John probably went farm to farm. And because he had 3 thrashing rigs, which meant he had to have 3 steam engines to run them, he could run a portable mill any place because he had the power unit to go with it.
Sure.
So that makes sense.
Yeah. Very definitely.
And right here on the left would have been where John Brum's farm would have been. Martin Brum's was in here.
On the left.
Yeah, or on the right. My other left.
Oh, okay.
My other left. Where the guy's mowing, where Danny's mowing grass now.
Okay. So now we're going over here to this
We're going to look
bell.
at this bell and we'll
Okay.
wind it up here.
All right. I don't know who takes care of the flowers down here, but they do a good job.
The volunteer is here from Pine Creek. I says, Mrs. Brandt is one of them, I says, and I says, they all do a good job. I says, these ladies, I says, take a lot of time out of their own, I says, to get things done and organized there. And this will be our last bell to look at here from Pine Creek. The company that ran this was 1836 until 1951, I believe, 57, something like that.
What does it say? The Stuckstead?
Stuckstead, yeah. Bell Manufacturing Company. That's what the BFC, is on there. His first name was Henry, and that's all he ever had. He never had after 18. Geez, I can't remember the date. He ended up, the company was incorporated after that. Then it got to be like commercial built bells. Otherwise, he built all the bells himself. His company did them. But this is the bell, like I said, we figure this one is from the public school.
The one that's where the cornfield
Yeah,
is
and
now.
where the cornfield stood.
Okay.
This is the one donated by John Herrick. And I said, because of the date, see, it would be 3 years older than when the school was built, the Pine Creek School built 1890, which the bell would fit. But Tommy bought that bell. So this bell comes up, if it's from a schoolhouse, it's the only other schoolhouse we can come up with. At least that's the story we're going with, and we're going to stay with that one.
Well, you showed me a picture of that Pine Creek Public School, and it was pretty fancy. Actually, it had a basement.
There was a little bit of work involved in it. Dave Kuyak, I talked to David here in Pine Creek, and David said his mother had lived in it there for a while. Because see, it was ran until 1926. The Dodge School started taking over in 1926. And then it was used sporadically after that by the school district once in a while when they got overcrowded, I suspect, over the hill. Then they were going here till 45, and in 45 it was finally closed. So I do not remember it in my lifetime, but then I wasn't born right in this town. So if there's a little shyster running around, you might have remembered it, so,
Yeah.
but we don't. But had to be removed, someplace gone, that's all I know. Like all the other old buildings are gone.
Now, right over here, is this a key to where people are buried in the
Yes,
cemetery?
this is
That's
the directory for the cemetery. It shows the layout. The old church was stood up here. This is where we were the other day. Anna Pulaski is over here. One of these graves, the directory's inside here. There's a
that's
book,
nice.
tells you where it is, tells you which lot to look in. You look up the person's name, it tells you the lot, the plot. You find the plot number over here. And it's kind of a show and tell. You learn how to do it, and you can figure out where your relation or who it is left.
Yeah.
The old water line over here, I know there's one guy buried in this water line. They called him Prince Albert. And it wasn't a guy in a can either, but he only knew German. And Father Gar was teaching him English. Died in 33. Buried up here. Nobody hardly came to his funeral. He was just a handyman, kind of helped people around and that. And he did not know English. He used to come by my great-grandma's place to talk to her because she could talk German.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I said, he's buried in the water line. There's one plot up on top. Probably, I'm not sure, 185. That's where all the babies are buried. A lot of them, because like yourself, diphtheria took so many kids at one time. I said these cemeteries were just overloaded.
So this is Hesley Felsheim. Who was Felsheim? Do you know?
Brother-in-law. I'm pretty sure he's brother-in-law to David and Dave Hesley's family.
Now, is Hesley, isn't that like a Swiss or a German name?
Swiss.
A Swiss.
We were to the Hesley farm for the cemetery.
Yeah.
But like I said, there's a lot of history being lost, I said, because people are passing on. It's not written down. We've got a few books, like I said. Ron Gillespie wrote some wonderful books. We've got the country schoolhouses, his many and memorable, and I said, a lot of stories in there, but a few people maybe are left yet that kind of remember those schoolhouses. I remember the school that stood on my farm, and it's been moved to Arcadia. Now it's a residential building.
Well, there must have been something here. Huh?
The old fence.
Right here? It
It was up there.
I mean, right here.
There maybe was,
That was probably a gate.
there was a gate up over there. The cemetery's been moved down once or twice.
But doesn't this look like?
There could have been something here at one time, but the outhouse had stood over there. Yeah, I'm not sure what that footing is from.
But it's not a tombstone as far as.
No. This would be like I said, the outhouses were there. There was a big shed over here. The utility building was in there. The nurse's sister's home was there. The school was there. Rectory was here. Don't remember a little building here. But that thing could be older than us,
Yeah. That'd be pretty old, wouldn't it?
25, 20,
Stand close together and wrap us up.
be 25, 26 years old, I suppose.
All right, this is another edition of the Twin Cities of Trempealeau County, Dodge and Pine Creek. And once again, Jim has just been a font of knowledge here. So I guess we're going to wrap it up.
That's the end of the history files for
Yep.
this edition.
Maybe forever, who knows?
No, we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens.